Canada welcomes hundreds of thousands of new immigrants every year. However, low written literacy forces these immigrants to accept employment that they are overqualified for. But improving written literacy is a significant challenge without the support and feedback of an instructor. In our study, we explore the potential of leveraging a community-based network of peers to create a sustainable, semi-autonomous learning environment for these immigrants when they are lacking in access to formal supports. We conducted the study with 16 mature English language learners with an average age of 39. Over the course of 10 days, they completed 3 writing assignments at home in which they responded to prompts as well as provided peer feedback. These samples were coded and statistically analyzed. After the deployment, focus groups were conducted to evaluate participants' experiences. These interviews were then transcribed and thematically analyzed. So the app followed the standard peer review structure. Participants responded to prompts and then provided feedback to a peer. We included an extra step where writers had to add tags to each section of their writing. These tags were then transformed into a dynamic rubric for the reviewer to direct their attention to localized issues. Our first set of findings have to do with transparency. So we found that localized feedback is required to sustain a community-based approach due to the greater transparency that it provides. We also found that mature English language learners are open to automated feedback, but only if these algorithms are transparent. One participant suggested leaving greater space for justifications. So for example, if you leave a score of say 3, you should have to explain why you're leaving that score. Another participant commented that a computer which is fully programmed is better than a partner or even a professor due to the greater clarity and transparency that it would provide. So we suggest that learners should be presented with diverse sources of transparent feedback to compensate for the lack of instructor presence. An implementation of this would be to present the feedback as suggestions rather than assessment to prompt learners to critically reflect on the feedback they receive. Our second set of findings have to do with collaboration. So we found that detail and transparency greatly impacted the trust learners had in peer feedback. Learners reported that having multiple peer reviewers can resolve disagreements that occur in a one-on-one setting. Some participants also suffered from low motivation due to low engagement from their partner. For example, one participant reported throughout the process, she felt that in my heart, I say it's not right, but I follow you. So we see in that one-on-one context, there is that pressure to agree with what your partner is saying. So we suggest that writing support tools should foster a greater sense of community through collaborative, semi-structured group discussions. An implementation of this would be to provide space for that open-ended discussion, as well as having that structured peer review in place as well. Our third set of findings have to do with learning supports. So we found that localized rubrics helped draw reviewers' attention to issues and helped to structure the review as well. We found that mature learners lacked confidence in their ability to provide general feedback without the tagged items. Participants requested a desire for more models and more examples so they can memorize what was expected of them in the assignments. So we suggest that learning supports need to be specific enough that they support learners in identifying issues at a local level, as well as building that confidence. But they also need to be dynamic enough to minimize the need for an instructor, which many of these immigrants don't have access to. So an implementation of this would be to generate dynamic rubrics from the tags that learners add to their writing, as we did in our study. So some key takeaways from this study is that learning language is also a process of developing your sense of self within a new community, hence the need for this collaborative community-based approach. In our study, we grounded our findings and our development of the application in the wider context in which the language acquisition was situated. And our intent is that these guidelines promote the reciprocal sharing of language learning by leveraging the already existing peer network that these new immigrants have.